Hello, I'm here today doing a hopefully quick tutorial about how I made the stamped roses that I put on my card. So, first you're going to take your ink. It doesn't really matter what kind of ink it is. It can be any of the pigment, or it can be the dye, or it can be the chalk. It really doesn't matter, because you're just wanting something that can be stamped and that will dry, and that pretty much describes any ink. So you ink up your flower stamps. I'm using the Art Warehouse stamp set that looks like this. You see that? It looks like this. There we go. And I'll be actually stamping with one, and then I have ones I have pre-made that I'll be doing the rest of the project with. So, you take a flower stamp and you stamp it 4 times. This 4 times is for one of the finished flowers. Okay? And you have your four flower stamps right there. I just like that stamp by itself, but we're going to do something cool with it. Okay, so then I have pre-stamped some. So I will set that one aside. And I'll bring over, this is actually just a different one of the flowers from that set. See? Okay. Then what you do is you have to cut them. Cut them out. And then once they're all cut out, you have to make these cuts. So listen carefully. In one of the flowers, you just have to make one slit cut like that. Okay. The second one, you have to cut one of the petals out. Just one. Like that. This third one, you have to cut 2 of the petals out. Any of you who have ever made roses the way that Tim Holtz make roses, this is the technique that I'm using. Okay, so that's where 2 petals is cut out. Then, finally, for the 4th one, you have to cut out 3 petals. Now, Tim uses these little pieces to make the center of his roses. Because we have such a pretty design on the inside, I only use these 4 to make the kind of roses that I made. So you can discard those, or if you have like a solid flower that doesn't have a design, you can go over to his tutorial and he'll show you how to use these. So your next step is take your hole punch, there, and you're going to punch out in the center right here, just as close to the center as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. See, I kind of went to the side on that one. But you're just doing that so it's easier to stack them up when you're done. So you're going to punch the middles out of each one of those. And once you're done doing that, see how that one is? Okay. And then you do it to the 4th one. Like so. Now you have all of your flower pieces ready to go. Okay, so you can put your scissors and your hole punch away. And next, I have these tools, this mat and these tools right here, like a stylus set from McGill, which is their for flower making. But you could just use a regular embossing stylus, like this one. Oops, like this one. It's just a small, and a piece of foam. You just have to have something that gives a little bit so you don't tear your paper. Okay, so if you have one of these, sorry, that was my chairs being loud. If you have one of these, this is how you use it. If you don't, basically if you use the foam and the little stylus that you might already have, it's going to come out to be the same thing. So you're going to shape these. Oh, I forgot a step. Huh? Okay, you need to assemble them first. Okay, so to assemble each one of these, you take some sort of quick drying wet adhesive and you put these together like this to create the cup of the flower. So that's the first one. That's the one that just had the slit in it. Then you do it on each successive one, which will create the bloom shape of a flower so that they'll all eventually fit together. So you do that to each one, and just, you don't need to use a lot of glue because it's going to be stabilized later by the fact that they're all stacked together, but you need to use enough for the individual pieces to stand up to the next part, which is the shaping, which is the part I almost skipped too. Here is, alright, that last one. So, alright, now we're ready for the shaping. So you take your cupped flower, and you're just going to shape these a little bit so that they fold over. See how nice that does with the foam? It just like gives it a rounded, more realistic flower look to each of the petals. And you don't want to push terribly hard because, first of all, this is just paper. I think sometimes we get a little rough with it, but also depending on how much of a curve you want, you can do it too much and then the curve goes under and you can't see any of the petal. So you want to just give it enough so that it gives it that little turn. Then to give me a little more room in the middle, I go ahead and take and flatten it out. I don't know if you can see that. The light is a little high. See that? And so it just gives me a little more of a place in the middle for the other ones to sit. So real quick here, we're gonna go through. I think that these McGill tools are available on Archiver's Annex or in an Archiver's. I got mine at Hobby Lobby actually, but if you get it at Hobby Lobby, you can't just buy the tools. There are punches that come with it. So see, that was really quick. And then you do it with each successive one. And then also, I don't know if any of you get the that Paper Wishes magazine, but the tools and all of the available punches, because this actually goes with punches that make individual petals and stamen and all these different kinds of flowers. They are all available in the Paper Wishes catalog as well. So if you wanted to get your Hampton Art flower stamps and you wanted to try this with the tools I'm using, that's some places where you can purchase the McGill tools. I use them all the time. They're like, I make a lot of flowers, so they're invaluable to me. Okay, so that is, all of our pieces are now shaped. So I'm going to put that stylus up here. Okay, so I like to use hot glue because it holds everything together much better than any other kind of glue when it comes to this sort of assembly. Excuse me. So I'm going to take my hot glue and I'm going to put the one The one that actually ends up being the biggest, which is the one that only had one slit cut in it, that's the base. Then you're going to take the one that only had one petal cut out of it, that's the second layer, and you're going to take some hot glue and just apply it around the base, and then you'll have a few seconds to position it on here so that you get the most contrast. Okay, then you just keep going until you have assembled all the pieces on top of each other. And they'll keep getting higher and higher. You know, you'll keep getting more dimension. See there? And finally, this last middle piece. I didn't really pay attention when I did it. It just happened to work out okay for me. But you kind of want to make sure that when you overlap these, that the little stamen pattern on the inside of the stamp lines up. If you're using one like this that has sorry, it wasn't in the frame. You want to make sure they kind of line up so it looks like you meant to do it. You know, see how there is a continuous pattern in there. That's really good to make it look realistic. Okay, so then I usually will, once it's all glued together, fluff it up like that so that I get the most dimension possible. See? Okay, so your flower is done. On my card, I used some smooch spritz and made it really, really glossy and shiny and pretty looking. So I'm going to show you just real quick. I think you probably know how to spritz, but I'm just going to finish her up. So, my mess over there. So, I have my finished flower. It is, now I can wiggle it around and it doesn't fall apart, so I know it's dry. Because hot glue is still pliable even when it's completely dry. So, I'm going to take I'm using caramel latte for this one. And, oh, I used blackberry chalk ink for this color, by the by. So I'm going to use my smooch spritz, and I'm just going to try to get it, there we go, at a couple of different angles so that I get inside, and then once on the inside like that. And you can see that sort of gives it there we go. See, you can see that shine that it gives it, and also colors the inside a little bit so that it's not so stark white. You could leave it stark white if you wanted to, and you could also use vanilla shimmer if you wanted it to still be shiny, but you didn't want to color the inside in a different color than white. Vanilla shimmer is really good for adding extra shininess and not adding other color. So usually what I do, just to make it so I know that it's completely ready to go on the card, I'll go ahead and hit it with the heat tool. And that also really tends to bring out the shine, the heat tool, but you can burn smooch spritz if you heat it too long. So don't burn your smooch spritz because it will be bad. I had a rose when I was first making these that was just like smoking, and it was not good. I heated it too long. Okay, so that's dry now, and it's really, really shiny. And that is how I made all the little roses that went on my card. And I think that's it. So try this. It's really, really easy, and it is fun. And the part that takes the most time is cutting out the little stamps that you made. But I only skipped that part. It really only took me about 2 or 3 minutes, but I wanted to cut the time down on the video. So, have a great day.